The Indian Army got its new combat uniforms on its 74th annual Army Day in New Delhi. The new camouflage uniform is based on a digital disruptive pattern. It is designed by the National Institute of Fashion Technology in partnership with the Indian Army. The designers analyzed the uniforms of different countries to make it lighter, more comfortable and climate friendly. But why do soldiers wear a uniform, and since when did they start doing so? Hi, I am Dhiren Azad and today I explore the origin of military uniforms and how the Indian Army got its greens. A uniform gives soldiers a sense of responsibility, respect and pride. A uniform can bring a sense of safety or scare people depending on which side they are on. Military uniforms were not always uniform. You can tell that by observing the paintings and visual depictions of wars. In the absence of uniforms, it is quite difficult to discern who is fighting who. Until the 17th century, officers and generals wore whatever they pleased. So let's rewind when conflicts gave birth to organized armies. The Kurukshetra War, that was around 10th century BC. The Trojan War, that happened in 12th to 11th BC. While there have been many notable wars, you might say military history as a humanities discipline started with the confrontation between Sumer, modern-day Iraq, and Elam, modern-day Iran, in somewhere around 2700 BCE near modern-day Basra. The paintings of ancient wars capture the ferocity and valor of soldiers. You will notice them wearing similar dresses, but they are not uniforms. Remember, uniforms are different from ethnic dresses. If people from common cultures and climates are seen wearing similar dresses, it can create an impression of uniformly dressed warriors. Military of the Roman Republic and Empire wore loosely regulated dress and armor. The contemporary concept of uniforms was not part of Roman culture, and there were considerable differences in detail. In ancient times, people's choices of clothes was a factor of climate and most easily available materials and colors. They also wore clothes that suited their jobs. Therefore, we see Chinese and Viking warriors fully clothed because of the climates they were in. India has a warmer climate, so workers here wore a loincloth or a dhoti with a turban. Comfort wear allowed them to do their tasks efficiently. As weaponry advanced from stones to spears to swords to bow and arrow, the dresses of different units also evolved. Infantry, cavalry, archers, elephant warriors added or removed pieces of clothing or armor depending on the maneuverability they required. These elements continue to influence uniforms design to this day and will continue to do so in future. Units similar dresses started to become more uniform only when armies started to become bigger and more organized. The need to standardize their outfits became a necessity for identification. The turning point came in the 17th century. Gustavus Adolphus, the ruler of Sweden, raised the Blue Brigade, an infantry regiment, around 1624 during the Polish-Swedish War of 1621 to 1625. It originally recruited from Swedish provinces. But when Gustavus and his army landed in Pomerania and Poland, new recruits came from local German inhabitants who filled the ranks. These were mercenaries and were common for both the armies. To distinguish his men, Gustavus ordered his Blue Brigade to dress in blue and yellow regimental dresses. Few years later in Britain, the soldiers of Oliver Cromwell's new model army, raised in 1645, followed suit. Then across the English Channel, the French adopted the concept. France was the leading nation in Europe at that time. It possessed the best and most influential army of its time. So other countries followed its fashion. When it came to choosing colors, the standard army uniform did not differ greatly from civilian wear. Then new features like canvas gaiters started to give a distinct look to soldiers. And this innocuous piece of cloth continues to be part of ceremonial dresses till date. Once standardized, army uniforms started to have a common cut and a general outline. Colors were the only differentiators. The British and Danish preferred red. The French, Spanish and Austrian infantry chose grey and then changed to white. Why an army chose a particular color is not clear. However, it gave birth to some nonsensical fiction. For example, the popular belief that the British infantry was given red to conceal bloodstains is complete fallacy. They chose red either because it was considered the national color or because the dye employed to color the uniforms was widely available for cheap. While uniforms became standard for rank and file soldiery, officers were slow to adopt them. Until the late 1600s, officers had their own unique styles. Epaulets, an ornamental showpiece on shoulders showing rank and stature of the officer, came much later in the 17th century. In India, where the Mughals were the rulers, they had no formal uniforms for their armies. They just dressed evenly. Military fashion took a serious turn during the Napoleonic Wars between 1803 and 1850. Kings and generals started to dress their soldiers in flamboyant colors. Men in uniforms became show-offs, often at the cost of practicality and comfort. Uniforms were close-fitting and were liberally adorned with intricate braiding across the body of the jacket. By 1826, the fashion of uniform reached its peak. Lord Bingham designed and commissioned fashionable uniforms for his regiment, the 17th Lancers. It earned them the nickname Bingham's Dandies. Only the Earl of Cardigan's 11th Hussars could match them in sartorial splendor. They were nicknamed cherry bums because of the tight-fitting scarlet trousers. Bright and distinctive attire made sense when armies met face to face. Each side wished to be visually overwhelming. We can still see that at Wagah border, where soldiers from both India and Pakistan in their gorgeous dresses try to outstamp each other. From the middle of the 19th century, when warfare adopted covert operations and modern weaponry, bright and colorful uniforms became easy targets. Troops needed to blend in with their landscape. So the British Army introduced khaki uniforms in India and Africa in 1848. It provided better camouflage, adopted as standard service wear throughout the army by 1902. Armies in other countries also followed suit. By the start of World War I, almost all armies gave up their brightly colored dresses. During World War I, armies discarded their brightly colored military regalia for greens and khakis. During World War II, they began sporting the mottled camouflage, first adopted by the Waffen SS units of the Nazi army. The British East India Company recruited locals and gave them uniforms to distinguish them. All three presidencies had their unique dress and combat uniforms. The Sepoy uniforms were embroidered with colored trimmings of red for Bengal Presidency, grey for Bombay Presidency, and yellow for Madras Presidency. The first mutiny by Indian sepoys was also over uniforms in 1806, which few people remember as the Vellore Mutiny. The mutiny erupted when Indian soldiers were asked to stop wearing tilaks and beards. It angered both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. To make matters worse, they were asked to replace turbans with a hat that looked European but were mainly worn by Indians who converted to Christianity. After the revolt of 1857, armies of the three presidencies were devolved to the British Crown and were eventually allotted formal uniforms. In 1947, when the Indian Army was divided, Indian Army retained the olive green, while Pakistani Army changed to khaki and then later adopted sherwani. After the 1962 war, Indian soldiers' cotton uniforms and cotton fiber jerseys were replaced by clothing that was better equipped for Himalayan high altitudes. After the Siachen Glacier face-off of 1984, Indian units in the glacier were introduced to Austrian alpine clothing and equipment. In 1980, the Indian Army replaced the old cotton olive green combat dress with disruptive pattern battle dress. It provided an inbuilt element of camouflage to the soldiers. In 2005, when paramilitary forces, BSF, CRPF and ITBP adopted the disruptive pattern uniform, Indian generals felt the army's distinctive privilege is being violated. General J.J. Singh shot off a letter to Home Minister Shivraj Patil objecting that non-army personnel should not wear camouflage dress and that policemen who donned them could be easily mistaken for army men. The uniform not only differentiates civilians from military personnel and between personnel of different militaries, it also engenders togetherness, conformity, and discipline among the personnel. I hope you liked today's episode. Please write in the comments how you felt about it, and please share, like, and subscribe.